Alright, so the goal of this video is to show you how to start using the ArcGIS Experience Builder, which is part of the ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS in general ecosystem. Okay, so just a quick overview. There's different ways to create apps and web apps within the ArcGIS or Esri environment. So, from ArcGIS Online, one of the simplest ways to do it is just to use a pre-built template or configurable app. So those work really well. They're really easy to set up, but they don't offer a whole lot of customization. You kind of have to fit your data to the specific template. The next kind of step up traditionally was the ArcGIS web app builder, and that gave you a little bit more control over creating a web map. That tool is really just for mainly making a website designed around a map as opposed to a general purpose website. And then kind of on the extreme end of things, we have actually using the ArcGIS JavaScript API, which means you need to know some JavaScript and also probably some HTML and CSS if you're going to build out websites. So there's kind of a big gap there. So this in terms of level of difficulty and level of customization. So ArcGIS ArcGIS Experience Builder is kind of starting to fill that gap by allowing a lot of customization without the need to do a lot of coding. However, you can also, if you're a developer or understand how to use the JavaScript API, you can use this alongside that. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility. Okay, so what I'm going to do is walk through the creation of this simple web page. So the idea here is to have a web map that shows the geologic layers around the Canaan Valley area, and then some information about the Canaan Valley and the different geologic units. So I'm not going to go through all the preparation steps, but I just wanted to describe real quick how I did this preparation. Okay, so first off, I had to get the data I was going to use. So the data I used came from the West Virginia GIS Tech Center. First off, I got the Canaan Valley geology here, so I downloaded this UTM-83 version of the data, and this is from this geologic mapping project. It was higher resolution just over the Canaan Valley area, it wasn't for the entire state. It's more detailed than the full statewide geologic layers, which is a little coarser. So you can see it's 1 to 24,000 scale, I believe. Yeah, 1 to 24,000 scale. Anyway, so that's where I got the geology. I just downloaded it there. And then I also wanted geologic hinges, so I just got that from the West Virginia geologic map data. So if you download this shapefile, you'll get the bedrock geology and then the fold hinges and the fault lines. I just wanted the fold hinges, so I grabbed it. Again, scales. This is much coarser, but it worked out fine for this specific task. Anyway, so this is two data. We're also pulling in hillshade, which is derived from best available data, and I'm grabbing that from a service provided by the West Virginia GIS Tech Center, and specifically I'm grabbing this elevations, this hillshade service here. So there's the REST page for it. Okay, so that's where the data came from. Okay, so to do the prep, I prefer to work in ArcPro to do the prep work. So anyway, that's how I set this up. So anyway, I brought in this data. Remember, if you're going to pull in data into a web map, that should be projected into the Web Mercator projection, WGS84 Web Mercator, or just WGS84 Geographic Coordinate System. And as I noticed before, both of these layers were in, I believe, UTM-17 North, so I had to reproject them. So I made sure the map was set to the Web Mercator projection, and then I copied the layers and changed their projection. If you don't know how to do that, you basically just click on a layer. If you go to Export Features, then you can change the projection here and make a copy. Anyway, so in this map, I basically have the Canaan geology data, which is vector polygon layer, and then I have these lines, syncline and anticline lines. So this is an upfold, an orange, and then the purple is the downfolds or the synclines. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted in terms of data. The other things I did for prep, I went in and did some editing on this layer's attribute table. So, for example, I added in a formation name and the geologic period because I wanted to include that information. I also changed the legend. Let me open up the symbology pane here. So I changed the legend so that they listed out in stratigraphic order or age as opposed to alphabetical order. So the oldest unit at the bottom, this is the Devonian Age Hampshire Formation, and then the youngest at the top, the Monongalia group, which is Pennsylvanian. So anyway, I just did some editing there to the attribute table just to help with symbology, and I also picked symbols here. The other thing that I did was pick collars. Obviously, I just picked a collar ramp that worked that I liked, and I also configured the pop-ups. Again, you could configure the pop-ups in ArcGIS Online if you want. I like to do it in Pro. I just like the layout better. But basically, what I did was, if you click on a layer. I guess. Not sure where my pop-up is. Oh, here it is. It's behind another window. Let me pull this over here. I basically just edited it, so instead of having attributes, it just prints the map symbol, the unit name, and then the geologic period, like basically as a title. And then for the there we go. For the folds, it tells you the fold name and the fold type, anticline versus syncline. So anyway, I did my pop-up editing, my legend, symbology stuff, make sure the projections were correct to get all the data up and running. And I'm going to provide, this data will be provided if you're taking this as part of one of my classes. So anyway, so I'm just going to save this real quick. So I'm just going to try to kind of redo this process from scratch here. So this is how I want it. So now I'm going to go to share, and I could like overwrite my existing, but I'm just going to make a copy. So I'm going to do web map, and we're going to call this Canaan Geology 2 and Canaan example. And then some tags. And Canaan, doesn't really matter. Okay, and then I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna do create new folder. I'm gonna call this, create new folder. We're gonna call this Canaan 2, because I already have the Canaan already created. And I'm gonna share it with everybody. That should work. So now let's look at analyze, see if there's any issues. And doesn't look like it. You might get an issue here. It's an error related with IDs. If you get that, you just double click on it, and then it opens up a window. Just click on the option, and then it should work. I've been noticing that recently. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Okay, so that looks fine. So I'm going to do share. And as you can see here, that's going through and sharing that service. And again, to do this, make sure you have to be logged into the account that you want, your ArcGIS Online account, and just going to save into this subfolder inside of my ArcGIS Online content. Okay, so while that's working, let's go ahead and just get everything up and running online. So I'm just going to go back to, see here, that's the actual page. I'm going to get rid of these for now so we can start from scratch. First thing I'm going to do is go to ArcGIS Online. I'm just going to do that on another page here, so you put in my password and everything. Okay, so it looks like this is done. Alright, so here's my ArcGIS Online page. I'm going to go into my content. And then now I should have a new folder, so Canaan 2. And you can see publishing that, I ended up with a map. I ended up with the data layers as a set of hosted feature layers, and then the service definition. So I'm going to click on this to open the map. And I want to go to share, make sure it's shared with everybody. Yep. And then I want to do well, first off, we're going to do open in map view, because I want to do make a couple changes. Okay, so one thing I want to do is I want to add that hillshade, which is a service. So I'm going to add that now. So to do that, I'm going to click add, and we want to do web service, and then I need the URL. So let me go into that. Remember, I pulled this up a minute ago. So this is from the elevation raster here from the West Virginia GIS Tech Center Services page, and then Hillshade. Grab this URL and close this down here, and then copy that in, Control V, and then you could use it as a base map. We're just going to use it as another layer, so I'm going to do add to map. Okay. Alright, so that got added. Note here that it's in the wrong order, so I'm going to pull this down to the bottom in the layer list here. I also want to make the layers look a little cleaner, so to do that, I'm going to click on the folds here first. I'm just going to do rename, and we'll call these folds, and then I was going to put West Virginia GES, for West Virginia Geological and Economic Survey, which is where I got the data from. And then for the geology, we'll do rename again, and then Canaan Geology, and then I'm going to put the author of the data in here, which is, sorry, let's get that up on the other page here, which is Machin. So this is going to be Machin et al. Okay, that looks good. So okay, and then this will rename to Hillshade, and then West Virginia GIS Tech Center. And then I was going to put 1M after it because it's a 1 meter resolution. Okay, so there's our layers. Let's just make sure the pop-ups are working as we expected. Okay, so it looks like it's doing what I want. I basically just have a title with the 3 pieces of information there. So it looks fine. And then, yep, and then we have our fold name and then the type of fold, syncline or anticline. Okay, one other thing I wanted to do is if I click on Hillshade, that's really just like a background layer. So if I click on that under its properties over here, I'm going to turn off show in map legend. We really don't need that. Okay, and let's just check out a few other, let's make one other change. So I'm going to go to this Canaan Valley layer. I want to be able to kind of see the hillshade under it, so I'm just going to add a bit of transparency. So I'm going to bump this up to 40. There we go. So now we can kind of see the hillshade underneath of it there. Okay, so let's just check a few things before we're done, or we move on. So let's look at the layer list, or the legend. So we have our folds there, and our geologic formations. That looks good. We may want to see, let me just see real quick if I can easily change this. I want to get rid of this. I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure how to do that right off the top of my head, so we just won't worry about it. If you're really being particular, you might want to like clean this up and not have the field names and stuff in there. I think I should have done that in Pro actually. So, but we won't worry about that for now. Okay, so anyway, I think that's basically what I wanted. So make sure you get on here and hit save. I was to save as new map, I guess, and then save. Okay, so I have a map now. So now I basically have all my inputs, so now I can go in and actually start making an app. So I'm going to go over here to contents. So this takes me back to my contents, and here's my map that I just made a copy of. Make sure this is shared. I'm going to turn this to everyone. Okay, and then we want to do a create web app. And as you go in here, you see there's lots of options, right? So we have our configurable apps, our web app builder, story maps, dashboards for like monitoring data. What we're going to look at is experience builder. So if we click on that, that loads the experience builder. All right, so as you can see, they provide a bunch of templates for you. We are not going to worry too much. We're not going to use one of the templates, but again, these are just for different use cases. What we're going to do is just do a blank scrolling. So what that means is it'll be a scrolling web page, where it's supposed to like a fixed size. Okay, so I'm going to hit create, and that'll launch the builder, which is just set up inside of the web browser. So I'm going to go up here, change the name. We're going to call this Canaan example 2. Note that it says draft here because I haven't saved or published anything yet. Okay, so now we want to start adding content. As you can see, there's lots of different things you can add. I'm not going to go over all of this because there's a lot, but I want to show you some common stuff and this how we can do some editing and whatnot. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is have like a title at the top of the page. So I'm going to grab this text and I'm going to dump this up here. And then I'm going to pull this down into another bracket. Okay, so what this basically does as you work through is it creates a bunch of blocks that it kind of relates to like CSS and HTML and responsive web design. So I have this block now up at the top, and inside of there I have a text box basically. So I'm just going to put in there Canaan Valley Geology, and let's center that in the text box. And let's bump the size up a bit. The default's 13, so I'm going to bump up to 32. And then we'll expand this so it goes clear across the page. And it looks like, let me see here. Move this up a little bit. Oh, down a little. Sorry, cut off the... Okay, cool. So there we have a title. All right, so now I'm going to move this map over. I'm going to put it on the right side of the page. I'm going to have some text next to it. So I'm going to pull it across a bit. And if we want to make it a little taller, we make sure we grab the box that it's inside of and pull it down a bit. Okay. All right, so now let's add another text box. So I'm going to grab another text box. I'm going to dump it here. And I want it to go all the way over to butt up against the map. Okay, so instead of like writing a bunch of text right now, which would take forever, I just have a Word document here with some text in it, so I'm just going to cut and paste some of that text into the document. So this first part is just a little text that I wrote just to introduce the page, and the rest of the text actually came from the documentation that came with the layers. A little bit of plagiarism here, but again, I'm just doing this as an example. So I just dumped all this text in here. So you see there. Let's do some formatting. So again, the default is 13. I'm just going to bump up to, let's just bump up to 14. And I want this to not scroll, so I'm going to make sure this is big enough that everything gets captured in there. You can see as I go down, it's adding more page because it's a scrolling page. All right, and then let's just fix a few things. I'll put a return in there. Okay, so that looks fine. So we have that now as an object. All right, so I'd also like to include some buttons that people can go to links. So now we're going to click on button here. I'm going to add a few buttons. So this will add in a new area down here. And I'm just going to add 3 buttons, kind of side by side. And make them this default. I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to have them be filled in blue for now, but we'll change some colors and stuff later on. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Grab text box instead. There we go. So as you can see, these are not centered. So let me just pull them over till they're roughly centered. Right, there we go. So we have our 3 buttons now. All right, and then I want to add another text box in here to put some info in about the map units. You can see here, this got cut off again, so I'm going to expand that a bit. Okay, so now let me do that. So I'm going to grab another text box. We'll dump it into another area here. And let's expand it all the way across. And now I'm going to go in here and grab the text that came from the originators of the data layer. Copy. All right, so I'm going to paste this text in here. All right, so there we have a bunch of text. It's not very well formatted, so I'm going to pull this so we can see what we're doing. Again, it's adding the page length since it's a scrollable page. Okay, so basically these are just unit information about each of the units. So I'm going to break this up so that's spread out nicely. So there's the first one. Greenbrier, Mauchunk, Pottsville, and Allegheny, Conemaugh, Monongalia. I think that's everything broken apart. Let me just do one other thing. I'm going to make sure that this line spacing is the same for all the lines. I'm going to go over here and click on that's indent. Just change it to line spacing of 1. That didn't work. Let me try that again. So again, let's grab all this and oh, that didn't work either. Trying to figure out how to make sure the spacing's the same across everything. I'm just not going to worry about that for now because it'll take me forever to figure out. All right, so anyway, there's all of our text. And then I want to add a picture at the bottom of Canaan Valley. So I'm going to grab this picture object, which is there it is, image. So we're going to add an image. And we're going to have that go clear across. I'm going to pull that clear across. And then I'm going to add one more text box. And again, we're going to have that go clear across also. And that's what I'm going to do is add in some references at the bottom. And this again is just coming out of this Word doc that I have over on the side. And I'm going to span this so we get everything. Okay, so that's basically the content. So now I want to do some editing to clean the page up. Again, the text is probably not great, but it's fine for now. Okay, so let's play around with this a bit. Oops. Before we move on, let me show you. So this is like this ad is adding content. If you click on this page, it shows you the structure of the page. So let's just go through that real quick. So basically I have a block at the top, goes clear across, and it has a text box in it. And then I have a second block, and that block contains another text box and the map object. And then I have a third block, and that's got my 3 buttons in it. And then a fourth block that has the text associated with the rock units, where's the text box inside of it. And then the box with the image in it, and the block with the references. Okay. Alright, so that's basically the content. So now let's just work down the page and do some formatting. So first thing I like to do is change the colors. So I'm going to pull this over to the side here, and I'm going to pull up this other page. So this is just a CSS file that has some hex codes for colors in it that I used for a web page. So I want to basically make this use the same colors as this other web page. So I'm just going to make use of these hex codes. Okay, so to change those, if you click on the object in the page list there, so I'm just clicking on the body, and then over here we should be able to format that object. Oops. Oh, there we go. Maybe that doesn't pop up that way. I think I need to make this bigger. Oh, as another quick note too is if it's not letting you do anything, like move stuff around, you might have to turn off this lock layout. Sometimes that's on by default. I guess, okay, you have to just switch to style, forgot. So there's the content and the style. So I just switched the style and I want to be in the body. And then I'm just going to change it to this color. Okay, so just need to go through all of these blocks here and just change the background color. Block 1. Block 2, and then so on and so forth. So I'm kind of creating like a darker theme here. Okay, so I believe all the page content now should be dark. Note that there's these white areas. Those are just showing the divisions between the units. So real quick, let me just I think I missed one there. There we go. So if you want to check and make sure that those are just like not spaces that are going to show up on the actual page, let me just go ahead and save this. And then if I click on this, it'll open a preview. Yeah, and as you can see there, everything got changed, right? So basically the whole background is now the same color. All right, this text now is not a good color for this, so I'm going to go through and change that. Again, I'm just highlighting the object here, go to Style. Now I want to change the color for the text. It should be, let me see here. That's a drop shadow, content. Oh, it's in content, okay. Still don't completely figure out where everything is in here. So I'm going to use this like kind of off-white, gold, well, actually no, I'm going to use this yellow color. And I'm going to bold it. And then same thing here, I'm going to grab all this text and I'm going to change it to that color. And same thing down here. Again, I'm just going through and trying to create a kind of a custom theme for the data or for the page. All right, and then I'm going to change these headers to, let's use this green color. Just to have a different color. So again, I'm just going in and editing my content here. And then to make this a little bit stand out, I'm going to bold it and bump the size up. Let's just bump it to 16. So 16 in bold. Oops. And last one. Okay, so there I have all the, oh, I missed that one. So I have all the units there, the headings are a different color, and the font's a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go down here to the picture, and note that it just has this generic thing, but I actually want to link to a picture. So I'm going to do select an image, and we want to do URL. Note you could upload an image. And what I'm going to do is just grab a picture from the Wikipedia page for this, for Canaan Valley. Again, you should have permissions. I'm just doing this as an example, so I'm not going to keep it or anything. So I'm going to do copy it. So this is just an image on the Wikipedia page. I just click on it, do copy image link, and then if I go back here, I can dump that link in, and you can see it added it there. And there's a couple different settings you can change. It's set to fit. You can also do fill, use different styles, so let's leave that alone. You could also have it be a link, so you could have it linked to a page. We're not going to do that, but and you can have alt text and a tooltip if you hover over it. So like it could be like, you know, click to go to Wikipedia page or something. Okay, so there's the image. Go down here to this. We'll do the same thing. Let's bump these up to 14 and this color, and again we'll use our references there. I'm just going to make this lowercase. And looks like this needs to be expanded a bit. Cover everything, so that looks good. This needs to be expanded a bit since we changed some sizes. There we go. Let me expand this now. There we go. Okay, and then I need to fix up the buttons, right? So I'm going to click on this button, and over here it says set link. So I'm going to have this button link to a URL, and I'm going to specifically have it linked to the Wikipedia page for Canaan Valley. So I'm going to grab the URL there, dump it in. If you can have it go to a new window, that's basically the same as like target blank if you're familiar with like CSS and HTML. And we're going to change the text to Canaan Valley Wikipedia. Okay. And then this thing, we're going to have it linked to a page that describes what a plunging anticline is. Plunging folds, which is kind of what makes Canaan Valley have the kind of morphology that it does. So I'm going to link to this page here that explains folds and plunging folds. So again, that'll be a URL. Dump it in. Okay, cool. And then last button, we'll have that link to the data. So I'm going to call this source data, and again, set link. And I just want to go to the page with the data on it there from the Tech Center, West Virginia GIS Tech Center. And again, we're just dumping that link in. So URL. Okay. All right, cool. And then last thing, let's see. I want to take these and fiddle with the collars a bit. So I'm going to go to Style. Actually, I have to click on Advanced here for this. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to make this one orange, and I'm going to change the text color. So I'm going to we'll use the background color, and I'll bump the size up to 16. Cool. Okay, and then this one, same thing. I'm just going to use a different color. We'll make it, we'll make it green color. And again, we'll bump the text up. Let's do 18. I'm just trying to fill up the button. And then, let's see, again, we'll make it this color. And then our last button there, again, use a different color. I'll make it this red color. And change the text color and bump the size up. Cool. All right, so I think that basically did it. I'm sure I need to obviously read through the page and see if there are any issues, but we'll just say that that's decent for now. Okay, so I'm going to do a save. Now let me show you just a few things before we look at the product. So right now I'm viewing it as if it's in a like full screen monitor. You can see what it would look like if it'd be on a tablet. So you can see it kind of adjusts the page layout there a bit. It's kind of like responsive web design, like if you're familiar with like Bootstrap or anything. And that's what it'd be more like on a phone. If you click on this live preview, it'll try to show you what it looks like there in the web browser. So it's kind of dynamically creating it. Okay, so let me turn that off. So now let's actually look at a preview. So I'm going to make sure it's saved, and then we're going to do this preview. All right, so here's our page. So first off, let's make sure the map works. So if I click on this, yep, it gives us the pop-ups that we want. Click on the fold here. Oop. Okay, that works. Seems like we can zoom, move around. So yeah, it looks good. Again, I'm not going to read through all the text, but you need to edit the text. There's the image, the references, and then these are going to open to those links in a new tab. So it looks like those are working. Okay, so this one needs some work still. I noticed like these have like blue outlines. You probably want to go and change the outline to something else. So we can maybe change it to, I don't know, use this like a yellow color or something. Thing here. And there was some like blank space down here. I'm not really sure the reason for that. Anyway, you could go through and make some changes. But that's basically the idea. So effectively, you're designing a website. So what you could do with this, other things you could do with this is, make multi-page websites, make like dashboards and stuff. So it's actually really flexible, so it's worth playing around with. This was just kind of a brief introduction. So the last thing to do if you want to make a map with this is you need to go to you need to save and then publish. And when you publish it, it's actually going to save it to your ArcGIS Online content. All right, so let me go back to ArcGIS Online now, and I'm going to go back to content. Okay, and it just put it out in the open under all my content. So there's the map. This little like cube symbol means that it's the experience builder. So if I click on that, then you can go in here and you can view it. This opens it up. You can edit it further. That opens up the editor. And you can change the share settings. So I can share with everybody. And once I share it, it has a URL, right? So now if I just go to that URL, then that would be available for anybody to go to and play around with. Again, you can also change the size here, see how that impacts it. So there you can see if it's stacked, right? All right, so that's a quick, there's again a lot more you can do. That's just a quick introduction to using the ArcGIS Experience Builder for making, for basically designing websites and web apps.